What's up, guys? So my car ended up getting to the dyno. I know I didn't film it because we were on a time crunch, but I got it there. It's running and driving fine, and I still have to do a couple more things. The car, when it was on the dyno, after 16 pounds, the clutch started slipping, so I'm not making much more than stock. But in the meantime, before I actually get the clutch and put it back on the dyno, which I will film next time, I have to do some little things. I'll show you. The gauges are just hanging in place like they were, and obviously I need to see those. Air temp sensor has to be wired up, and I have to make a bracket for the ECU. So just to clean up the interior, get everything in, but everything works finally. So it's nice to be driving my car again, and I'll show you what I'll be doing today. So what I didn't film before we actually went to the dyno was I put in a Walbro 255 fuel pump, and surprisingly I got one for an 02 WRX, expecting to have to wire the harness, but it's a direct plug-in, which I was shocked. 10 years later, using the same clips and everything, which is pretty cool and easier on my part. Here, let me show you this. As you can see, the gauges are just hanging there. It's not ideal because you want to be able to see these things, and the hose for the boost gauge actually runs over the clutch pedal. And then same thing with this, it's not mounted. So today I'm deleting this, gonna make something for the gauges and my turbo timer so it all sits right in the middle and it's visible. And then this piece of metal over here, epoxy it to this so then it has a contact surface to use double-sided tape. Nothing crazy. The ECU, can't see it, it's under there. But the ECU, that's gonna be a little more difficult because it's not just the computer with the harness anymore, it's the computer with the plug-and-play adapter, which is bulky as hell, and the stock harness connected as well. So trying to get all that under the kick panel. I'll figure it out. So let's go mount these gauges. Simple as that. 4 bolts. So right here, I marked where the bolts went initially, which are those 3 spots, and to the farthest one, that's about 2 3/4 in. This is 7 inches wide, so then obviously just add those 2 since I'll have to do the 90-degree bends. And then I have to see the height of the piece I need, so I'll put this bottom cubby back in, do the height of it, and literally just cut out a rectangle, drill holes on either side, and then measure where I want the gauges and drill out those holes. So I got the piece cut. It's 4 inches by 12.5, and the face is going to be at 7 inches on the dot pretty much. So 2 3/4 from either side have to get bent in. I'm going to do that right now, and then I have to measure where these are going to go so that they're nice and centered, as well as, where'd it go? My turbo timer. So hopefully it's going to be something like this, so it's all centered and that good stuff. Oh, and so the turbo timer stays, I'm going to have to make, once it's bent, I'm going to have to make like a shelf for it to sit on that I'm gonna use double-sided tape to stick it to, and let me get to that. Ready? Oh, might need some slight trimming. Nah, a little too tall. Nah, the belt sander.
Three-quarter.
So, I got the piece looking pretty good in the center console, but before I drill the holes, I don't want to fuck it up. So I made a template. You can see I got all my lines and markings on here. This little guy is for the turbo timer. The gauge is going to sit in this square. This gauge is going to sit in this square. Everything's spaced evenly. I do have OCD, so I want it to be done right the first time. And this is going to be open over here, but I did that because I kind of want to, I won't have a cigarette lighter port anymore. So to charge my phone, I want to maybe wire up a USB port or something, maybe put 2 of them in there. One for my ECU, so I could have the wire already plugged in, so the computer just plugs right there, and the other one to charge the phone, something like that, I don't know. But that'll be down the line. This is just to have my gauges mounted and the turbo timer mounted, so everything's not flopping around how I showed you before. I'm gonna cut out the circles, Dremel out the piece for the turbo timer, and see how it looks. As you can see, I got all this mocked up. I think it looks pretty good. And as I mentioned before, this opening is gonna stay here just in case I wanna put USB ports for either it's my ECU or as a charging thing, since this doesn't have a USB, if I don't change the radio, because I have another one, all black, USB, Bluetooth. So we'll see. But it's coming out well. Now I gotta transfer everything over here. So when I was trying to cut out the corners, it ended up slipping. Talking to the camera. You can see right here a little bit, and there's another one over here. So the last like 1/4 inch on either side, where'd it go? I had to file by hand, and it fits fairly well. So I might not even have to make a support for the back, but I'll see what happens. Overall, can't say I'm fairly satisfied. I'll probably have this stick out maybe a 1/4 inch or so. We shall see. And like my dad said, down the line, since I've done it once already, I'll know how to do it again. Get cleaner lines, no fuck-ups here or here. So for the time being, that's perfect. And just gotta mount that in the car and I'll be good. I finished it. Not the prettiest, but I cleaned it up as good as I can. Now this is technically like a little shelf that I'm gonna glue on like this. So if you look at it this way, that's exactly where the turbo timer is gonna sit, and there's the cutout for the wire. So I'm gonna glue that on, and then I can toss it in my car. So I'm looking forward to that. Let's go. So right now, I have a little shelf epoxied and clamped down. I used this JB weld, quick weld for steel reinforced epoxy, or it is steel reinforced epoxy. And then this hood I got a piece of metal that you could see a little bit right there, piece of metal that I bent to shape for the steering column. And even though it pokes out, once it's all dried, I'm gonna sand it down so you can't tell it was epoxied and you can't see the overhang. So then that'll get double-sided taped to the steering column and I won't have to cut or drill anything. I'll let these sit, and then for the holes here, I'm gonna have to get some nuts for the inside of the bolts, and then I can plug everything back in. So I'll go get those now. So I got this finished and I got this one mounted as well. I think it looks really good, but I didn't know there'd be a gap here and here since I lined it up with this black trim around the radio. Turns out the radio is flush with the trim, which I didn't expect. Otherwise I would have made this flush with the radio and not the trim of the radio. Regardless, everything looks pretty cool on. Then this guy's not actually finished, but it's on there. Just double-sided tape with the sheet of metal I bent underneath it. It fits really well to the contour of the steering column cover. I couldn't be more stoked. So now I could actually read what's going on. For the time being, it's nice to have interior bits back on. Nice to have gauges that aren't gonna move around. If I end up making modifications or cleaning this up, I'll make sure to film it, but I like it. Kind of looks like a face too. Alright, so that's it for this one, and I'll film making the bracket for the computer as well. Regardless, if you want to see it, I'll film it anyway. So that's it, and I'll see you next time. Peace.